they have something to teach you. And I'd call them up, and it would be that person, which was just...
Was that person expecting you?
No.
Okay.
And these were all famous people, everything from Ram Dass to Kalu Rinpoche to on and on to Kirpal Singh. And I didn't know who they... Sometimes I knew who they were. I'd heard of them. But many times there were people that nobody knew at all.
Yeah.
And I would go there, and they would teach me something that I needed to know. And then when it was done, they would say, okay, now you go on to this other person.
Great story. Let's go to Louisville, Kentucky. First-time caller. Hey, Rich, you made it through. Go ahead.
Hey, George.
Hi.
Thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
I would like to acknowledge your guest tonight. Thank you for the information that you're passing on to the masses and the listeners of Coast to Coast.
Thank you.
Tonight, I wanted to ask you a question that's been really bugging me a long time.
Okay.
It's about ancient history in Egypt and about an omission in history of Upper and Lower Egypt. From my studies of ancient history of Egypt, at some point there were two kingdoms in Egypt.
That's right.
And that there were pharaohs that sit on two different thrones. They
were all kings then. There were no pharaohs until the 18th dynasty.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Well, what has really been bugging me is that there seems to be an omission in history about the people who sat on the throne. I believe it's in Lower Egypt, that were descendants of the original people that were taken into Egypt as Israelites, or as I don't know if they were called Jews at the time. But there seems to be an omission in their history as far as recorded history is. And I was wondering, do you know anything about the history of the descendants that sit on the throne in Lower Egypt?
Okay.
Well, that's a good question. I've been given a huge amount of information around Egypt because the scribe of Egypt, Thoth, actually, he was one of the people that these two spheres of light led me to, and I studied with him for 12 years. And he told me a great deal about the history of Egypt and what was, but he was leading me in a very specific direction. He didn't talk much about the Jews or the Hebrews at that time. And I know they were there, but you happen to hit on one thing that I really don't know much about.
Do you think there was an ET presence in Egypt?
There was an ET presence on Earth for at least for the last 13,000 years, and a lot longer.
Next up, we go to Sean in Madison, Wisconsin. You're up with us east of the Rockies. Sean, go ahead.
Hello, George.
Hi.
And hi, Mr. Melchizedek. What an honor, sir.
Hi, good to meet you.
My name's Sean. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin, and the Viscous Circle. And I'm familiar with your Flower of Life workshop and have been since the early 90s. You inspired me to open my third eye, sir, so I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. And, George, I spoke with you and Jay Widener earlier this year. Parts of that night's broadcast ended up on the same song that I had called you about in the first place. Kind of a strange psychic loop that happened there. But Mr. Melchizedek, so many of your ideas and teachings have been the subject matter of my lyrics and stuff for so many years. I just really wanted to tell you thank you, and it would be an honor to send you a copy of my album, Escape Wormwood, when it comes out.
Oh, thank you. I don't know how to do that, but...
when people go to your website, can they email you?
You can go to Drunvalo.net.
And we've got that linked up at coasttocoastam.com. I should ask you, too, Serpent of the Light, is it out there in Amazon bookstores?
It's on Amazon, or you can go to Drunvalo.net, either one. If you go to Drunvalo.net, you get it signed.
And then you can put it on eBay.
Yeah, right.
Let's go to, we've got time for one more before the break. Toronto, Canada, Steve, International Line. Stephen, good morning.
Hey, gentlemen. Wow, what a great honor it is to talk to you, Drunvalo. I've got your Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life book. Excellent work.
Super.
But my question for you was, for some time now, I've been thinking about how much of an amazing coincidence it is that we can even have a total eclipse of the sun at all. And, you know, whenever I look at, like, pictures of this, I think it just strikes me as such a spiritual thing to behold. And I was wondering what your thoughts are on the total eclipse and what, like, impact or message it has for humanity in general. Well, it's just such an amazing thing.
Every eclipse is a syncing between a lining up between the Earth and the Moon and the Sun, and throughout time, it doesn't even matter which ancient culture you talk about. These things are all considered significant. If you remember in I'll take this a step deeper, and that is where I mentioned earlier in the program where inside the energy field around the human body there was a sphere, two spheres that were exactly the size of the Earth and the Moon. Well, now we found the entire solar system, all the planets, all the sizes, and all of their moons. And not only that, but the shape of the orbits, the maximum, minimum, and mean orbits of all the planets relative even to each other, like Mars to Earth, is all sacred geometrical patterns. And they're all located inside the human energy field. And so when you begin to realize that the outer world is completely defined by geometrical patterns and embedded inside around every single person, you begin to see that the outer world is not just an accident. It is really defined clearly, and there's much more to the world than we know. It's not just eating and having a job and everything else. There's far, far more to this. The Russians have just invented a new science that is going to completely alter this world in ways that it's just practically every single thing we know is going to be changed, and fast. And what they have discovered is that they've now discovered what gravity is, or at least a better idea than anything that's ever been presented before. This is all the problems in relativity and everything else is usually gravity, quantum physics. And through mathematics, they can determine where every single atom, every proton is at any moment in the universe.
We're going to come back with the final phone calls. Coast to Coast AM. Well, next hour, Joshua P. Warren joins us for his weekly Paranormal Moments as we talk about some full-bodied apparitions with Joshua P. When we come back, let's wrap things up here with final phone calls with Drunvalo, Melchizedek on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. We'll go to final callers here with Drunvalo, Melchizedek, and no relation to the biblical character Melchizedek, huh?
Well,
really?
There may be. Not personally, but it goes back even further.
He would appear at will any place, I'm told.
Well, Melchizedek is not a person. It's a level of consciousness.
It's a consciousness.
And there are millions and millions of them throughout the universe.
All right, let's go to final calls. You ready?
Sure.
Santa Monica we go, California. Hello, John. It's your turn. Thanks for holding.
Thanks, George.
Sure.
As usual, great show. Drunvalo, first I want to tell you how privileged I feel to be speaking with you. I'm really kind of in awe that I'm talking. I have spent 5 or 6 years doing research, really intense research, reading people like Jared Diamond, Greg Braden, William Sullivan, Frank Waters, Michael Drosnin, and I read your works. And in order to write a book that I wrote. And of all the works that affected me the most, it was yours. I found your book, the whole treatment of sacred geometry, the tree of life, Platonic solids, the nature of the golden mean, the inner architecture of life and truth, to be literally at the heart of the universe. And I found it to be that at the heart of your book. I have a question, but I have to explain it. It'll take me 30 seconds to explain it to lead up to the question.
All right.